Hi, everybody. Welcome to Ask the Amigos for May 2021. This is where we answer all of our Discord community's burning questions.
They'll burn you.
I'm here with Amigo Aaron, and we're going to dive right in to our first question that comes from the one, the only Pixels at Dawn. He says, okay, time to let it all out. What game UI feature is the most pointless or the most annoying to you?
Game UI feature.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. You want to tackle that one first? I have to think
Yeah,
about that for a minute.
I've got a good one. Anytime that the game devotes a significant portion of the HUD to just a picture of your guy,
Yeah.
you've seen this in you see this of course in lots of classic Amiga games. Remember we did that one, I think it was no, it wasn't Degeneration X, it was something else, where the whole guy, the guy's
Generation
profile.
X.
That's a
Yeah.
wrestling thing.
That's a
isn't it?
wrestling group.
Okay.
We're off and running, Boat.
We're off
But
and
yeah.
running. But anyway, there was one game that we played. It was an adventure game, and it was, you saw the guy's profile. It was a huge.
That wasn't the
picture of him.
vampire one, was it? Where the guy was a futuristic
This one was
vampire?
much before then. I'm sure somebody in the chat will know.
Yeah.
But that's one. But even with newer games like Doom, I always thought the fact that they put the guy's face in the screen and he's just there looking around. It's like, what are we doing? What's the point of that?
Yeah. I will say that. Just the fact where they make the UI take up half the screen is real irritating to me. What I don't like is when that UI displays the name of the game. I'd rather see my guy's face than the logo of the game or the company's name. That's a real bummer. So, but I think I'm gonna chime in and agree with you on that. Wasted space on the screen is a real pet peeve of mine.
Yeah, just wasted space in general. That's a great.
And we always see it. We
answer.
just saw it. That's the amazing thing. It just happened. So yeah.
Paul, aka Hermsky, asks, after reading an article on Prince Philip's top 10 rules of life, what are your top 3 life rules?
Top 3 life rules. Here's one of my top rules. Don't eat food you're not used to when you're on the road.
Yeah, that's a great rule.
That's because that'll get you. That'll hose you, and then you're literally out on an island. Boat. What about
that
you?
happened to me. That happened to me when we were on our way back from the 50-mile hike with the Boy Scouts. We've been eating camp food for a week.
Yeah.
And then we stopped at the old Western Sizzler. And I was like, man, it's time to eat a big greasy steak. That was one of the worst ideas in my life.
That'll hose you every time, no doubt.
Yeah.
Okay, what about it's your turn. Let's have one of your rules.
Oh, one of my top 3 rules for life. It's always colder than you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
Bring a jacket. Bring a jacket.
In fact, just to feed off that, part of my other rule would be bring changes of clothes and just stash them.
Yeah.
You never know when you're gonna do something like, you ever dump like a fudge sickle on your shirt or a fall in the mud? You look
All
like
the
a
time.
jerk. Or you generally just make a mess. That's a good one to go
or
with.
just walking through a deep puddle, like you think it's going to be some little thing, and all of a sudden your shoes and your socks are soaked. Having a spare pair of shoes and socks, it's a lifesaver.
Here's another one. This is one I carry with me all through high school and going forward. When you think through the haze that you've had enough to drink, when you think that, stop drinking. And I mean, I'm not saying you don't have to drink a ton, but I mean, everyone has that point that they get to, and they're like, man, maybe I should quit. Quit right there. Nothing good happens beyond that point. That's when bad stuff happens.
And I'm going to feed off that one. And this is one of my rules of life. Nothing good happens after midnight.
Oh, I don't agree with that. All the fun's at night, Boat. All the good fun's at night.
No. Most of the badness in my life has come after midnight.
Well,
it's the witching hour, Aaron.
There's been a lot of good stuff, though. You can't deny that.
All right. Thank you. Great question, Paul. All right. Next is we got a question from Chris Foltz. Is there a band or musician you used to love but now can't stand listening to? I got one right off the bat.
All right.
Ray Stevens. When I was a kid, I thought Ray Stevens was incredibly hilarious.
Yeah.
And now you go back, and all of Ray Stevens' songs are exactly the same. You've got a little ditty that he sings, and then each verse is basically a little stand-up comedy routine. And then there's another verse where he sings, and then I mean, and that's every song is like that. So
I'm going to get controversial on this one. And I'm not even saying this is a bad band because they're not. They're one of the all-time great bands. But I hit the wall. I listened to them so much that I got to the point where I couldn't stand them anymore. And this is not Lebowski related when I say it's the Eagles. I absorbed. I had their greatest hits album and played it about 1,000,000 times, and something clicked in my head, and I didn't want to hear them anymore. I just did not want to hear them. I don't know why. Maybe it's because that tour pissed me off. Maybe because some of the dumber things. But I mean, I can ignore all that because I like a lot of artists that are idiots. But I just hit the wall on them, and I mean it happens sometimes. I mean, I remember my buddy Wes had the box set for Zeppelin, and I love Zeppelin. But man, he played that over and over, and you get to the point where you're just like, listen, enough, and that's what happened. And so I haven't went back to the Eagles for a while.
Yeah, most of my favorite bands, I will go years without hearing them because anytime I want to listen to one of their songs, I just cue it up in the old brain.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
I bet that needle skips left and right up in there.
All right. Let's see. Mitsuyama asks, what are your top 3 fast food joints?
You mean the ones that I love?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. I mean, I hate to say this, but I'm going to. I love White Castle, and we never get it, and so that's always one I go to when I see one. Okay, so there's that. I like Fazoli's. That's fast food technically.
It's Italian food fast. It's right there on the sign.
So I like that. That's another one of my faves. And then to close it out, I was a big fan of Steak and Shake, but I've kind of switched my allegiances over to that Cookout. I think is an excellent restaurant.
I've still never been to Cookout.
Yeah, they're real good, and they're also inexpensive. Great shakes. Now, I'm not going to count Schaefer's on there because that's not fast food, but their food crushes all these other places. But yeah, I would go with those 3. What about you?
For me, White Castle, definitely number 1 with a bullet. They're all burger places.
Yeah.
Number 2, I know you don't like Five Guys, but I really like Five Guys, and I combine Five Guys and In-N-Out and all of those type of places. These are the sort of upper class burger joints. But to me, it's worth the price. Not all the time, but some of the time.
I don't mind paying the price, but Five Guys to me is an In-N-Out, if you know what I mean. I mean, that stuff, it's like human Drano when I eat there.
Real is it what do you think it is about the burgers?
It's not just me. Like every time me or Tree's mom or Luca, it happens to every one of us. That's the only Five Guys I've eaten at. So maybe other ones are great and we just got a dud. But man, I learned a lesson. Also, I don't like their seating arrangement. The weird thing where they've got the sacks of potatoes everywhere. What's up with that? I don't like it.
Yeah,
I don't like
that's
cafeteria
always
style.
Been their thing.
I don't like cafeteria style seating. I don't like any of that. Get it out.
Yeah. Okay. But my all-time favorite, it's always there when you need it. It's always there in a pinch. It's the good old Golden Arches. When I listen to that, you don't know flack on McDonald's.
Yep.
I mean, listen, McDonald's is garbage. Everybody knows it's garbage. It's when you can sell a burger for $1 in 2021. What do you think about the quality of that food? But there's something comforting. There's something nostalgic. And there's something about the ubiquity of McDonald's. It's like wherever you go, no matter how bad things get, you can always pull through that drive-through and get yourself a quarter pounder or some fries and get a little bit of happiness.
I'm not gonna poo-poo that, no pun intended. But you're right. And the thing is, McDonald's, yeah, it's garbage food, but man, some of it's tasty. Hey, they got tasty fries. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some of their burgers are tasty. And it's just the way it is. And if you ever thought, can you put enough salt on something to make it tasty? Yes, they have the secret formula.
That's right. Okay. Paul, aka Hermsky, asks if you could ban one piece of tech, what would it be and why?
If I could ban it, let me ponder that. What do you got on that one?
I haven't. That's a good question, and I don't know. I mean, part of me wishes we could return to the pre-smartphone era because so many things so many things got worse after smartphones. Like going to concerts sucks now because everybody's holding their smartphone up to record the concert.
What's up with
That's
that? I've
that's
never
no
understood
good.
why.
Well,
Good
I was
lord,
one of
you
these
paid all
people.
that money?
I was one of these people that used to sneak tape recorders into concerts when I'd go because
Right.
I wanted that souvenir. But the thing is, it's like when you can't see the stage because everybody in front of you is holding up, and so you're watching the concert through somebody else's smartphone. That's no good. That's no
Yeah.
good.
You
Not
know,
to mention the fact that we're all addicted to our smartphones. We all look at them all the time, and that's not good for humanity. Now, of
yeah.
course, there's all the good things about smartphones, but I'm going to go with that. I'm gonna
Yeah.
go radical and ban smartphones.
I'm gonna go with old because he didn't say high technology, right? So
No,
I could
no.
listen. This is a controversial one, and you know me, I'm not against these, but if
Are you
I could
banning an
ban,
iron lung?
no, I'm banning
Okay.
guns, which I
Okay.
say are four times. Listen, if we didn't have any guns, that would be one less pain in the butt for humanity. Because now in America, especially, the cat's out of the bag. There's no more. There's no banning guns. It's crap. So you're having to live with them. It would be much easier just to have never had them. That would have made things a lot simpler. So I
Okay.
would go. I would go that route. And I'm not a big peace lover. Now it would suck for hunting, but I think people could get by. So there you go.
Okay. All right. Coming up next, Chris Folds asks, using the much talked about time machine, what tech purchases would you go back and tell yourself, no?
I'd buy as many guns as I could find. No. So he's saying we would go
So
back
the
and warn
question is, you
ourselves.
can go back and tell yourself, do not get this thing.
Okay. Okay. So listen, but you've got to probably have 20 answers to this.
I mean, I look around myself and I see a life of mistakes.
Let's hear a few.
The plastic fantastic, the Mac, the Power Mac G4.
Yeah.
I mean, it's beautiful and it conjures up feelings, but when you use it, I mean, it's useless. There is no for me personally, there's no practical application for using this thing. It's loud, it's heavy, it takes up a lot of room. I could have easily scratched my PowerPC Mac itch by buying an old Mac Mini. That was
Yeah.
a mistake. The Wii U, I bought for Mario Kart. Once I played Mario Kart, I had no more use for the Wii U. The Wii U was just a horrible, and you know what a Nintendo fanboy I am.
Yeah.
But it's the worst. It's the dirt worst.
Um, those are both good answers. I'll look at technology in a different way. I think about all the time I spent. You look at stuff that was expensive now, and now you look at it with disdain. That's crap. I remember when I got like a 120 megabyte USB drive. I was like, oh man. Well, now that's worse than crap. It's double crap. So it's hard to go back and tell yourself don't buy that because at the time it seemed like a great purchase.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything I've bought that I just laid down a ton of money and then ultimately it was totally worthless. I'm pretty particular on my purchases, Bode. I got
How
ripped.
about? I
I'm
was
sorry.
going
Go
to say,
ahead.
what is there anything since you've gotten into the retro hobby, or that you've purchased that you wish that you hadn't because you didn't get the use out of it you thought you would?
Okay, I got one. And I would probably go back and it was so cheap. That's why I hate to mention it. But if I could go back and not buy the Raspberry Pis or the Atomic Pi, because ultimately I've gotten little use from either of them. They were fun projects. I mean, I've got the Raspberry Pi hooked up right here, and I'm trying to get some use out of it. And but I'll look and I think about this. I love the mystery. I love the case. I've got this it's a beautiful Git setup I've got here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But I know that ultimately this is going to end up like my C64 that I put the Pi in. I mean, ultimately, because all these devices are doomed. As progress moves forward, they're ultimately doomed to be replaced by better things. But I mean, you can't think about that when you buy them.
And to me, it all comes back to how much time did you spend using the thing? Because you're right. Eventually, there's going to be a Mr. 5000 that's going to crush this Mr. But if I've spent thousands of hours playing Acorn Archimedes and MSX and
Yeah.
ZX Spectrum and stuff. I don't care. It's worth
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and Buck mentioned the Unamiga. Listen, I've got nothing. I mean, the Unamiga has given me a lot of stress over the years, as you know. But
It
I've
also
used the
made you the man
crap
you are
out of it.
today.
Well, I was always the man, but I've used the crap out of it until the Mister came around. I used it practically every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not. I mean, I don't like having the stuff I had to do to it, but I don't regret purchasing it.
I don't
I
regret
thought it
you
was a good
purchasing
deal.
that either. That's been the source of many a tale of mirth.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was real mirthful for me too.
Okay, moving on down the line. How about Christian Russell? He says we've all regretted buying certain things, but what is the most expensive thing you've ever bought and immediately had buyer's remorse or knew it was not really justifiable with your budget? So he's expanding it out to basically anything, not just retro related stuff.
I'm sitting in mine right now. This chair was very expensive, and it was way out of my price range. But I justified it to myself by saying, "Self, you spend a lot of time in that chair, and you've been sitting on a folding chair for the past 5 years. Not good. Get something that's gonna make you feel better." And I bought it. And I probably could have went with something cheaper, but I thought I'd go for something nice. And ultimately, I don't know how much. I mean, I do like the chair, but I do wonder if it was worth the amount of money that I paid for it. So that's something that springs to mind.
Yeah, yeah. For me, I mean, I have that feeling after every large purchase. I mean, I am the buyer's remorse champion of the world. Even for stuff that I know I need. I still feel remorse, but for stuff that I don't, even just buying our latest car that we bought, I drove out of that dealership thinking, man, I just took on $20,000 worth of debt and I gave up a car that ran fine. Why did I do that? But
Yeah.
in terms of more frivolous purchases, probably the Mario Brothers machine. I had a tremendous amount of buyers.
But you didn't pay that much for that, did you?
Well, I won it, and I'm going to commit the cardinal sin by talking about a price that I paid for a pinball machine or an arcade machine. I know collectors hate when people
It's funny how no one talks about that. We always talked about it. We never worried about that.
Right. So anyway, I drove down to Tennessee. First of all, I rented a trailer to attach to the back of my car. Okay.
You were coming home with something.
So yeah, so that's $100. I'm $100 in the hole already. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get a machine. Darn it. So I get down there and, I pass on everything and we get to this Mario Brothers machine. And I was like, man, I love Mario Brothers. And this is a good looking machine. I'm going to get this thing. And so we bid it up. Boom. $350. I'm like, man, yeah. Okay. That's not a bad price. And then I start to looking at it more carefully, and I'm like, boy, this control panel's not really in such good shape. The side art's kind of ratty. And I'm thinking of all these things, and then the lady comes up with the clipboard, and she's like, your total is $700. And I was like, what?
Oh, with fees.
And she's like, yeah, buyer's fee, the auction fee, some other fee, plus Tennessee has like 18% sales tax. Okay.
Yeah.
So I ended up spending a lot more than I thought I would at the end of this, and
So they ended up costing you $700.
$700.
Man, that's a tough pill to swallow. That's the first time you went to a big time auction, isn't it?
Yeah, and I learned my lesson. That's how they get you. So.
Yeah. Well, I will say I think I like your Mario. I think we put a high score thing in that as well.
Yeah. There's a score card in that. We recapped the monitor. It's performing well.
The way I look at it is with something like that boat, you've gotten a lot of use out of it, and you'll never sell it for less. I mean, probably now $700 would be a conservative estimate on what you get for it. So
yeah, that does bring me a certain amount of relief.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah. All right. Graham has got four big questions for us.
All right, bring them on.
The first one, he says, these days it seems very common for modern males to engage in manscaping and cosmetic procedures in a bid to maintain a youthful appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Did you secretly plan an extreme makeover for the 300th episode? Where do you stand on manscaping, Aaron?
Well, you could tell I take part in a great deal of that. As I sit here, unshaven, bald, and looking like a unmade bed. But I do dye the beard occasionally, as you know. And when it comes to more cosmetic surgery type angles, I'm too cheap, to be honest with you. Also, I'm scared to go to the hospital. And so I probably don't see myself doing that. I know plenty of people that have the gastric bypass, stuff like that, which would fit that rank. I don't know any men that have had plastic surgery for their looks.
Right.
But I know they're out there. I mean, there's no doubt. But not a lot of plastic surgery going on in West Virginia, boat that I'm aware of. But I'm sure some people do it, but no one I know.
Yeah. I think the height of my manscaping is when I started shaving my head. I mean, I manscape every week.
What a pain, eh?
Yeah. Well, it could be worse. Hey, how's that thing going for you? You still like it?
Yeah, it's okay.
But yeah, I don't think plastic surgery is in the books for me. It's funny, when I lived in Korea, pretty much every girl gets plastic surgery in Korea. I mean, it's as common as getting your wisdom teeth out.
No kidding.
They all get what's called double eyelid surgery, which makes their eyes basically seem like more like American eyes, like they're not as squinty, to use that term. So whenever you see an Asian girl and she's got the big doe eyes, that's a result of plastic
really.
surgery. Yeah.
What do you think about that, boat? I
Well,
mean, it may be culture, but to me that seems kind of sad.
It is kind of sad, and I think in Asia there's a much more standard definition of beauty than we have here. Where it, like, when you look at I remember looking at this calendar of like the most beautiful girls in Daegu, South Korea, because Daegu is that's what commonly known as where all the most beautiful girls in Korea live.
Okay.
They all looked exactly the same because they all got the same stuff done. And versus here in America, I feel like we have a much broader definition of what constitutes a pretty girl. So, but cultural differences.
Do you remember the Twilight Zone where it took place in the future, and they would take ugly people because everyone, when they became a mature, would go out and pick their new body, complete new body, new head, everything. It's like a whole. You would put your brain into this thing effectively. Mm-hmm. And that's what it reminds me of. But that's sort of where I see that we're going. And at the end of the episode, ultimately, everyone looks about the same. Right. And so at that point, at what point does being less attractive?
Pretty, nobody's pretty.
Yeah. At what point does being less attractive become more attractive or more interesting?
Right. Yeah, and I've always been the kind of guy that's gone after, girls that aren't exactly like the supermodel. Like supermodel type has not appealed to me. I've liked sort of other types of women. So I'm glad that we live in a country where there's not just one sort of type of beauty. So Graham's second question is, can you please tell everyone 3 Barbie games on any platform? Feel free to include any you wish you'd played before but were scared you would fail at.
I think what I would like, I'm not sure these games exist, but if I'm going to pick 3 Barbie games, I would like to have Pagan Barbie would be a good one. Barbie works at a butcher shop, I think would be fun. And maybe some sort of turn-of-the-century Black Plague Barbie. I think, though, complete with the plague mask, the whole 9 yards. I think there's a beauty there that's been that's been untouched. The Black Plague beauty. Put some sores on there that you can remove, stuff like that.
Okay, well, you are the Barbie games expert, so
I've been told that.
I'm going to yield to your expertise.
Oh, thank you.
That was probably the most popular stream you've ever done, in the 5 years.
No, it's not. It's not the most popular, but it's the one that it does get talked about quite a bit.
Yeah. Graham's third question is, I secretly enjoy drinking Dr. Pepper soda while playing Barbie point-and-click games, but I don't have Dr. Pepper very often because it's hard to find in Australia. Do you have any secret things you enjoy but wouldn't normally share?
Go ahead, Boat.
I think I'm pretty open about the things that I enjoy, even the weird things, you know?
Yeah. Um,
Um, like Coco Talk. You can't get much weirder than like enjoying Coco Talk, can you?
well, ask all hail here. He's in the house. You know, we shoot. How many times have we shot it today? This is
Uh,
what the sixth time we've been on camera. The fifth time, and
something like
so
that.
and so I look at the amount of time that I spend talking to folks, our people, our good buddies, you know. And then what else do I do? Okay, I go to work. All right, nothing exciting about that. All right, there's no secret thing going on there. I come home, watch the boy. All right, take care of the boy, do fatherly stuff here at the house. That's it. That's all I do. I don't have time for these secret, cool things. I'm not part of a sex cult. I'm not going out and doing illegal street racing. You know what I'm saying? I'm not selling drugs on the side. I'm not doing any of that stuff. Because even if I wanted to do it, I couldn't have the time. There's only so many hours in the day that I could get stuff done. So I guess the answer to that question is there are secret things that I do that I would like to do, that I would like to tell you about, but I'm not doing them. And so you'll have to wait till I get time to do them before I can discuss them.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, Graham's fourth question is he says, I don't know if this is true. West Virginia was in the news over here because of an 11-year-old boy getting a tattoo. Is it true that minors can be tattooed in West Virginia with a parent's blessing, or is this an onion type wash up?
That's probably true. That doesn't surprise me. 11 seems really young. But on the flip side, I know parents have their kids' ears and stuff pierced before that. I know
Oh
that for
yeah.
a fact.
There's 4-year-old girls that get through your
So I
ears.
would not be surprised that with consent, someone could get a tattoo. That said, if you allow your, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, Boat, if you allow your 11-year-old to get a tattoo, then you're an idiot and you're a bad parent because your 11-year-old's an idiot. They don't know what they're doing. That's why they need a parent. Your job is to steer them in the right direction. Your job is to steer clear of stupid things and do smart things and teach them to be wise. And when you let your kid do something that stupid, you're an idiot. You shouldn't have had kids. And I feel bad for the kids you've got. How's that?
Bam. Let's see. Christian Russell asks, who, in your opinion, is or was the greatest U.S. president of the 20th century?
Well, that's hard to say because despite the fact that we're in America, we're Americans, we don't have a full workout on all the presidents. I mean, that's even the presidents that I like the most. If you look at in the nitty gritty of what they did some dumb crap or some crap you're not going to like. Do you have a thought? Are you strong on somebody, Bode?
Uh, you know, here's the thing. The president is many things. The president is a figurehead. The president is the policies that he enacts in the country. And the president is sort of like, represents what we hope the country represents on the whole.
Yeah.
And so with all those things in mind, I think that Jack Kennedy probably is probably the greatest president in terms of the fact that he represented America when America was emerging as kind of the world leader and the fighter against all the the unjust things that were going on in the world at the time. Now, was John Kennedy a perfect person? Was he some sort of shining moral
No.
exemplar? No.
No.
But
And that's coming out more and more every day.
right.
Every day.
But when you think about like what he represented in terms of youth, in terms of the whole Camelot mystique, and in terms of where America was as a country in that time, all the moon race stuff, all of that stuff, and plus the fact that he met a tragic end, which gives him that martyrdom status that we like so much, that everybody likes. I think that he would probably be my pick. I don't know that we've really had any, you know, great presidents that were free of moral, that were fine, upstanding people in the 20th century. Maybe before then, I don't know.
I think we
But
have, and I'm going to pick him too. And no one in their right mind would pick this guy as their the best president. But I think this is it could be, at least in my lifetime, this is the only guy that's been president that I thought was a good person, deep down, and that's
Mhm.
Jimmy Carter.
Mhm.
Jimmy Carter inherited a very bad situation. Jimmy Carter was probably a little naive when he took the office, and he had to deal with a lot of stuff, a lot of bad stuff, and then some of it was compounded by his political rivals. Reagan, for example, with the Iran hostage situation. And so I'm going to pick Jimmy. Now, Jimmy he was in a very tumultuous time, and Jimmy was not what I would call a great setting president in terms of policy making. But what he was, I believe that he's probably the only president we ever had that was a good person in my lifetime. You got to think, as long as I've been alive, okay, we've only had Nixon, Ford, Carter, 2 terms of Reagan, right? Bush, 2 terms of Clinton. We've also had 2 terms of Bush, 2 terms of Obama, and Trump. Okay, so it's not like we've had 1,000 guys.
Right.
You got a
We've had
handful of
lots
guys.
of back-to-back terms, which have
Right,
made them
and
not
none
a
of those
president
guys.
before.
I mean, like, listen, you heard that list. That's my lifetime. None of those people. I don't think. I don't necessarily think any of them are really good people, except for Jimmy Carter. And a case could be made for Barack. I mean, you don't know these guys as a person. Even a case could be made for W. He was always heard he was a real nice guy. But I know Jimmy Carter's a nice guy because he's proven that through his deeds since he was president. And to this day, this 90-year-old man is still out doing charity work. He got off the hospital bed to do it. So I know he's a good guy. So I'm going to pick him despite the bad hand he was dealt, Bode.
Okay, I think that's a good answer. I think that you look at it we've looked at it from multiple angles for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and now Christian asks, who do you think is or was the greatest ever U.S. president?
Well, it really comes down to me for 2 people, and it's generic answers, but George Washington, Abraham Lincoln. I think you could maybe you could make a case for a couple other guys in war, but I'm going to probably just because of what he governed over, I'm probably going to have to go with Lincoln. Now, again, another non-perfect guy, and same with Washington. But much like when you picked Kennedy, Lincoln, his aura and his what he stood for in a modern eye trumps anything that he did or did not do when he was president. Like his legend has outgrown him as a man. Sort of like JFK. I mean, JFK, we know he did a bunch of slimy crap, but he outwardly, he's got that huge legend. I think so. I would probably go with Lincoln. Bo, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to go because I would go with both of those guys also, but I'll choose Washington.
Yeah.
Because Washington had the opportunity to be the royal god emperor king for life of America.
Yeah.
And he turned it down, and that takes a big man to do that.
Yeah. I agree. No, I mean, he's a real they both did a lot, and they're both men of their times too. Again, flawed as they were. But I think that's an excellent choice, Bud.
Yeah. Okay. Chris Folds asks, inspired by Flack, I've been starting to associate foods and meals with times in my life. What food or meal brings back the strongest gaming memories?
Oh, gaming memories. What do you think?
Boy, I don't know. Whenever I eat, remember Davaroni's cheese sticks?
Oh yeah, don't I? You got that? I know. I used to make those all the time.
There's a special formula for Davaroni's cheese sticks. They're real crispy on the outside.
Yeah.
And when you bite into them, you feel the grease burst into your mouth.
Yeah. Those are real good ones.
And yeah. And the only place that I've found those cheese sticks, again, is at the Barnyard Barbecue. They have the exact same preparation technique. And whenever I eat those, it just takes me back to going over to my friend Lars's house, watching some Thunder on Thursday night, and then playing a whole bunch of Mario Kart or Mario Party in the summertime. So that's what brings me back.
Yeah, it's funny. I made many a cheese stick over at Daveroni's over the years, and if you let those things stay in there too long, you get just that empty husk, and the cheese is already. That's the worst.
Yeah.
They're like, do it again, idiot. It's like, oh, son of a. When I think it's funny, I don't really associate gaming with a particular food. It's most of when I think of, like, I remember living up in the mountain and playing a lot of games. And what I liked to drink up there was that Mountain Dew Code Red. Remember that stuff? I think it's still around. I love that stuff. And I used to drink it, a lot of it. And I would have my little cigarillos, the little cigarette, the cigarettes, whatever they're called. And so those are two things that I think of when I was really getting into some action. Because gaming wise, I mean, listen, we just ordered pizza or whatever we had. I think, and not having tons of cash, so we didn't get we just, whatever was cheapest or on sale we would get. So I didn't have any one particular thing that I would get.
Yeah. All right. Did you have a favorite brand of cigarillos?
Oh yeah. What are those things called?
Swisher Sweets?
No. God, no.
You're a cheap guy.
No. These are the ones I like now are different. I'll get back to it now. I'll have to think about it. I can't remember.
Okay, when I was in high school, after I turned 18, I guess I turned 18 in between, and whenever I could start buying tobacco products, I always got these Al Capones. You ever try the Al Capone cigarillos? I think they were exclusively available at Speedway convenience stores. They were high quality.
Al, endorsed by Al. By the way, my Cheyenne cherry cigars. Those are the ones I like. Cheyenne. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Mitsuyama asks, if you had to watch one movie continuously for 24 hours, which movie would you choose?
One movie for 24 hours. It'd have to be a comedy of some sort. It would probably be, I can narrow it down to say 3. And then I had to pick from one of those. It'd be, because they're movies I could stand and that have a lot of ups and downs, tosses and turns. So I would go with Airplane 2, the original Naked Gun, or The Big Lebowski, and probably of those 3. If I was forced to watch something for 24 hours, I would probably go with Airplane 2. That'd be my choice.
Interesting. I would not choose a comedy, because any sort of funniness that would occur by the time you get to that 24-hour mark, not only will it not be funny anymore, but you will never want to watch whatever movie that is again. At least that's the way I would probably come out of it. I'd go with a movie that is that's a visual spectacle, where it's like you would notice new things about it on every repeated viewing.
Yeah.
And I would probably go with, did you ever see Spirited Away? That Studio
Ghibli
anime
movie? Yeah, long ago, yeah.
That's got a lot of little details and stuff in it. And the movie, I mean, the great thing about all of the Miyazaki Studio Ghibli movies is there's not really a plot. It's basically just like people going into different situations and things happening. So I'd probably pick that just because I'm sure I'd notice a lot of cool things that I haven't seen before.
Let me go off script for a second, just for fun. Of all the movies you've seen, okay, so I'm excluding crap like Hostel and crap like that. All the movies you've seen, what movie would you absolutely not want to watch for 20? What would be at the bottom of the barrel that if watching it would be worse than torture?
Probably. Oh, I know. That freaking Lady Gaga movie. A Star Is Born. I hated that movie.
It got a lot of acclaim. You got good songs in that, though.
It's a real downer.
Listen, I'm going to go with
one bad thing after another.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a movie. There are several movies that really freak me out, right?
Yeah.
One of which would be well, there's several, but the one that Clockwork Orange comes to mind is one that freaks me out. But the one I would not want to watch over and over would be Pink Floyd's The Wall. That movie is that's a weird film, man.
They used to, when I was in band, they used to just, we had this big TV in the band room. I don't know if there was in there when you were a student.
There was a TV in there, yeah.
Yeah, and they used to just play that on loop. And I'm not a big fan. Any scary movie or any freaky or like weird movie, like The Ring.
Yeah.
That you know, no, thank you.
Oh, I thought of one more I could watch forever, and that would be Rocky Horror Picture Show. Because I know all the songs, I could sing along, I could do the dances if I got
Hmm.
bored. I'd be good
Yeah,
to go. I could
that's a
recite
good
all the
choice.
lyrics. Yeah,
Right. And when you watch it for 24 hours, you're sort of like honing your skills for that next
yeah.
live show, you know?
But I don't think that would trump Airplane 2. Airplane, I would have said Airplane, but I've seen it so much that
Hmm.
I've just it's Airplane 2. I love Airplane 2, but I haven't seen it as many times, so that way it would be fresh for 24 hours. It would get me through. So that's what I'm going to go with that one.
Duncan Styles asks, would you rather be attacked by one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
I'm going to go with the one horse-sized duck boat. And I don't like having a horde of stuff overtake me. I'd rather be
Hmm.
ducks will eat you whole.
Right.
At least if so let's say the duck bends over and sucks you down, okay?
Hmm.
You could maybe even pound your way out of there. You know what I
Right.
mean? If you had
Right.
to. But if
Mhm.
you get nibbled to death by a bunch of
Yeah.
ducks, you're done. You got no chance there.
I'm right there with you. And also, you have a better chance of evading the attacks of one horse-sized duck than the 100 little things that just overwhelm you. So
Right,
I'm
right,
right there
right.
with you.
Yeah.
Barkbit asks, have you ever had a digital pet like a Tamagotchi or similar? What did you or would you name it?
I've never had one of those that I could recall. I know there was a time when those Tamagotchis were a big deal.
Mhm.
But I thought that was dumb. We always had a real proper pet. And so when you've got a proper
Did you
pet,
guys have pets growing up?
yeah, we had a pet when I was a kid. We had a pet cat. And
Mm.
then we had a pet dog early in my life. Then we had a pet cat and a bird for a while. And
Really?
then
I didn't know.
yeah,
Tell me about the bird.
the bird didn't stay around too long. He wasn't there too long. I don't know what happened
Mm.
to him, to be honest with you. We all hated him. He would throw his seed out of the cage, and he also talked a lot,
Mm.
perched, chirped, or whatever. So I never really got into the whole Tamagotchi. So if I was going to name one, though, I would probably just call him, I don't know, Slim. That sounds like a good name. So there you go, Slim.
I've never had a Tamagotchi. I like animals, but I'm not a real. I've never felt an extreme need to have a pet. To me, pets represent not being able to come and go as freely as you might. If you want to drop everything and go on vacation, it
Yeah, that is a
becomes an
problem.
issue.
Yeah.
And I think that if I lived alone, I would probably have a dog, just to keep me company. But as far as the virtual pets go, it seems like all of the nuisance and none of the good things. Because when you have a real pet, you've got a thing there that you can pet that sits next to you when you're watching TV or whatever. With the Tamagotchi, you've got to feed it and do all this stuff to it, but it doesn't offer you anything in return.
Yeah. Also, it's just kind of weird and sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Um, Paul Harrington asks, what's the first joke that comes to mind when someone asks, tell me a joke?
I don't tell jokes. Do you tell jokes that much?
No. In fact, I hate stand-up comedy.
Me too. I can't stand it. I never watch
Yeah.
stand-up comedians. So there, I guess the joke is we don't like jokes.
Yeah. Now, I will tell you one because there's the school talent show has just happened, and it's going to be virtual this year. And there's a tremendous amount of teachers at our school whose names start with J, especially the men. Almost all the men teachers' names start with J. We
Yeah.
got James, two Johns, a J, and somebody else. And so one of the teachers was like, we're going to do a segment called Jokes with J. So find a joke and record yourself telling it. Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I was going to tell a time traveler joke, but you didn't like it.
That's your joke?
That was the joke.
The funny thing is like when you told your joke, your video completely seized up, and so it looked like you were like doing some ventriloquism.
Maybe
Like
I
we
was
heard-
maybe I was time traveling. I don't know.
That was double creepy right there. It's very strange.
All right. Flack asks, what is something the public incorrectly assumes about your job? What's one thing you would like to set the record straight about? I'm interested to hear your response, Aaron.
Well, what really gets me is most people just talk about how glamorous my job is, and
True.
how many beautiful people I see. No, the one thing people, most people don't know what I do, but the ones that do, uh, I think a lot of people have misconceptions about prison. How's
Mm.
that?
Hmm.
And since I work in a prison, and I think the misconceptions are what it's like in there. In the
Hmm.
ones now, I go to detention centers. I'm not going to maximum security or anything, but you'd be surprised how much the prisoners can just kind of lumber around, you know, and it would come right up to you. And
Hmm.
so, it's I guess people don't realize that I don't consider my job to be super dangerous, but it could turn dangerous very quickly.
Hmm.
So
Are you given any training on like if stuff goes down? Are you taught any of the restraining techniques that you can use on the prisoners?
they weren't. No, there was no training involved. Now, when I got the job, I think it's pretty obvious that I'm all man. If you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
I
And
think that's why
so
they hired you.
so you might think, hey, they hired this guy because he's sort of a big oaf type guy that looks kind of
Well, not a
mean.
big oaf, but like a big dude,
Well, you'd be surprised to know that the majority. We had a staff meeting last week, and I looked over my peers online, and it was like staring into a morgue. A bunch of decrepit old geezers. They couldn't beat an egg, much less go in there and tangle with Joe Q scumbag in a big throwdown. So, no, that may be another misconception. Not all breath alcohol technicians are tough or even have the capability to hurt anyone. So there you go. What about you? You're a teacher. What's the misconception about teacher?
Well, I can only speak for my particular subject. So I teach music, and I think that the misconception is that music is fun, and so your subject isn't a real subject.
Well, let me tell you
That
something. Just from listening to you sing, I can tell you that music is not fun. I'm dispelling that right now.
and a lot of this misconception comes from other teachers. There's a word that I hate that's used and this doesn't happen so much in middle school, but in elementary school, they call art and music and PE specials. They're like, well, if you're not good, you won't get to go to your special today. And what that does is it devalues that subject. It treats it like a reward and not a serious academic endeavor, which it is.
Hmm. Okay. I mean, I could absolutely see your perspective on that.
Yeah.
That
So
said, that's always the way as a student. PE and music were like they're sort of like off-brand school to me as a
right.
kid. Now, I mean,
Hmm.
again, when I got in the band, like a high school band in particular, I was schooled proper because they make band as the hardest. Listen, it's the only class where I have worked up a sweat. I'm out marching around like an idiot in the rain. You know what I'm saying? Dumb stuff.
Hmm.
So you learn quickly that it's in fact that is a class, and it's in more than a class. Like it's the hardest class there is in a lot of ways. Or it's just like PE. You could go to do PE, but if you're going out for the football team or track something, it's going to be hard work. And it sort
Right.
of it goes past the limits of what a normal class would give you. So I can understand your perspective there. That pissed me off too. I never thought about it.
Let's see here. Next is L. Curtis Boyle. He says, what is your favorite hardware add-on, including SD card readers, joysticks, mice, etc., for each of your real retro systems?
How many systems do you have there that have big add-ons? You got a couple.
Almost everything I have has an add-on.
All right,
In
name a
fact, I think
couple.
everything I have. So,
What are your
uh,
favorites?
we'll start with the Coco since it's Curtis's question. So you got to go with the old Coco SDC.
Yes, you
That is the
do.
king dong of the
I've
of the
got mine
Coco.
right here. You can dust
Um,
it off. That's the big dog right there. I
yeah,
love this thing. God bless it. It makes life so much easier.
yeah. For the Atari, it's the FujiNet without question. I mean, I had an SD card solution for the Atari. It was actually a compact flash for the Atari, but having this thing hooked up to the internet and being able to just load stuff off the internet, whatever I want is great. Not to mention all the BBS capabilities and stuff like that. Um, I'd say on the whole, the best devices for all of my retro systems are just anything that allows me to load games more quickly than off the original discs.
Yeah, more quicker, faster.
Yeah.
Of course, I've got the SD solution for the Atari, great. The thing for the Coco, great. The 300 and something or another in one for the Atom is great. The multi-cart for the Odyssey's great. I get on the list. That's the number one thing I do. I will say, the Coco thing, I always bring it up just like you because it just works so great. Right, it's the ultimate great working thing that gives me no crap. And in this job, and when it comes to trying to play these old games, the more crap you take, the less you want to do it. And so that's great. Also, I have to say the loader for the Sega Dreamcast is a lot of fun. I like that. I love all the EverDrives as well. So yeah, you're right. Yeah. Anything that makes it easier to load stuff, it's great. But I really, the Mister is awful good just to allow you to load stuff on all these different systems like at the blink of an eye. So that's an honorable mention of that as well.
Yeah. Now you should probably mention, since we talked about all the SD stuff, go ahead and mention your favorite joystick. What's your favorite retro joystick?
Well, it's around here somewhere. It's the old Ergo stick, Bo. You know about it. But I also like the your cigar box stick. I use that. Did I tell you I converted that to USB?
No.
I converted that to USB. In fact,
cool.
I almost put I almost put the Mister in it.
It would fit in there.
It almost would do what I wanted, but ultimately I was worried about.
You made the right choice with the Dave case there. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
My favorite joystick is probably the good old NES pad. It's not the most comfortable thing in the world.
No, it's not.
But there's nothing that takes me back to the old day. Because like when I use an Atari stick, it takes me back, but it just reminds me of how good that sweet gem stick top tasted in my mouth.
No, God, double yuck.
But yeah, that's probably my favorite stuff.
When it comes to preferring a joystick for play, nostalgia aside, there's no way you could pick. Well, I mean, you could. It seems to me, it seems baffling that you would pick the NES stick over the Super Nintendo stick.
If I'm playing Nintendo games, I want to play on the NES pad. Absolutely, without a doubt. That's part of the experience.
That thing hurts my hands. I don't like it.
Well,
the shape was not ergonomic or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Let's see. I've alt-tabbed my way to oblivion here. Okay. Jason Warrens asks, what do your significant others think of the podcast and the community you've built around them?
Well, you better go ahead and answer that one, Boat.
So my wife thinks that the podcast is really cool. She enjoys the fact that this is the hobby that I've chosen, and I don't, go out and spend time at the bar or the casino or any number of things that I could be doing. She loves Aaron because, in her words, Aaron always says nice things.
That's right. Correct.
And so she's baffled by the fact that anybody cares about any of this stuff. But I mean, in a way, I'm also baffled.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, she's extremely supportive. And I couldn't really ask for anything better in that regard.
I'm my own significant other. I will say I will kind of meld this question to my immediate family, which is the Luke, the Luke had a big long nap today, so he's in his the Luke lair, playing some stuff, but he thinks it's cool and he endorses it, and so as long as he lets me do it, I'm a happy boy. So there you go.
Bam. Paul H asks, and this is Paul Bossman again, if you could know the truth about one historical mystery, what would it be? This is a great question. What do you think, Aaron?
Oh, jeez.
You only get to pick one.
Gosh, jeez. Historical mystery. Well, I would like to, really, I'd like to know. I would love to see the creation of the universe, but I guess that's really going far back, and a lot of the more popular historical things I don't really care that much about. JFK,
D.B. Cooper.
That one's pretty interesting, to be honest with you. I will say that one. That's not the worst idea. That one. Uh, Gosh, historical mystery. What do you have? One that jumps forth?
I think Atlantis is really cool. Like, I'd love to know the truth behind Atlantis, if there is any truth behind it. You know, an advanced civilization that was destroyed by volcanic activity or something like that, sunk to the bottom of the sea. Yeah, I'll go with that.
I would like to have been there, and this is going to sound a little goofy, but I'm just going to go with it. I would have liked to have been there for the first time that we had substantial communications with an alien race, and I think it's happened, Art Bell style. And so
There's on 60 Minutes this weekend. They're gonna have there's big UFO news coming, Aaron.
I
I don't know
heard
if
something
you've
about
heard
that.
about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, if you follow the news at all, listen, I've followed the UFO news for a long time, and it's a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's been put down, and with the occasional. I mean, I know Spock specials in the '90s didn't help give it credence or credibility, you know, and even most of Art's guests didn't. But I've noticed that there's been a serious pivot in the way that UFOs are being reported and are being spoken of, and this could finally be the pivot that takes us to the point where they are going to finally let the cat out of the bag. We shall see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see here. Chris Folds asks, the Egyptians and Mayans were way ahead of the rest of civilization and then died out. The secret's lost for thousands of years. Some believe it was aliens taking planted people back home. Others think it was the wrath of gods. Some even blame time travelers. What do you think caused it?
Boy, I'm not well read enough on that subject to even say. So some think it's aliens, some think it's time. I don't think it's either of those things. I think civilizations just die out. Trust, give us a few minutes. We're working on it. I mean, look, if you think about, I watched a thing on Hadrian's Wall the other night. Right, you're familiar with that?
No, tell me about it.
It's a wall that stretches across England that was used. No one's 100% sure why it's there, you know, but it was there. I think the Romans built it or whatever. But if you think about, at one time, the Romans ruled most of the world, right? Including all the way up to that point in England. They were way up there. Think about that. And for a long time, longer than we've been around. And so it goes to show you that you can have, I mean, they owned the world and then they went away. I mean, more or less. So even the biggest, most successful civilizations can buy it. Given what happens, or who knows what, and so I don't think time travel. Listen, I'm not buying time travelers having to do with anything like that. Time travelers, I'm not sure about that. UFOs, I don't know. It just seems like UFOs and and aliens with all this advanced knowledge would have better things to do than screw with the Mayans. I'm not buying it. You know the guy that he's like, it's aliens. He's got the crazy hair. Yeah, I never watched that. Screw that guy.
Yeah, I tend to share your sensibilities. I think that, even something like the plague, I mean, if you get the right disease to come along, you can wipe out everything, because it doesn't take much to make society collapse. I mean, even advanced societies. And of course, the fall of Rome didn't happen overnight. It happened over the course of hundreds of years.
Yeah.
But it happened, and it was gone, and it did not come back.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, if and I'll use COVID as an example. Here we are with our technology, and here comes this disease. It's not even a super deadly disease, and it kicks the crap out of us. And if things had turned incorrectly, we could have been up to our hiney's in trouble, right? It hit hard anyway. So what would something like this do to an ancient society that didn't have 4,000 double expensive drug manufacturers looking up a cure? They were rubbing salve on everything and eating leaves. That ain't gonna fix it. That so it can knock you out quick.
Yeah. If Chris also asks, if let me try again. If you were reincarnated as an animal, what are you picking?
An animal. At the risk of being eaten, by a predator. I've always, this may surprise you, Bo, but I've never been what I would call fleet of foot.
Mm-hmm.
So
Neither am I.
the first thing that popped into my head was a gazelle. I've
Mm.
always enjoyed watching gazelles. They're cool looking. That said, you would probably want to be something that flies, because flying stuff is cool and you get to fly. So if it wasn't a gazelle, I would probably go with something like an eagle, or one of the more noble, popular birds. Not a turkey vulture or something, or like a condor, or something cool like that.
I like the abilities of certain animals, like you said, like being able to run fast like a cheetah or be able to fly. But if I have to pick an animal that I think would suit my personality, I would probably go with the badger. When you're a badger, you've got a job to do. You got to gnaw down some trees, and you gotta build your little dam, and then you chill out in your dam, and that's what you do.
I thought beavers built dams. Badgers build dams?
Oh, you're right. I'm thinking of the wrong animal. Yeah.
Maybe I want to be a beaver. Maybe you should be a dodo. I think that seems appropriate.
What does a badger do?
They annoy people. That's where the term badger and somebody comes from. That's why I was surprised you picked it. Pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I guess the badger is the guy in the Wind in the Willows.
You took my line, Rob.
Not present there. Yeah.
How many badgers does it take to build a dam? A lot.
I'm gonna have to table that question as I review my animal knowledge. All right. Batman asks, was Lee Harvey Oswald a patsy?
I mean, there's a lot of JFK stuff this one. Listen, who knows? But my gut tells me yes. I think he was. There's too much supporting evidence of shenanigans. Normal. Sometimes the old saying, if it looks like a rose and smells like a rose, it's a rose, or whatever it is. In this case, I don't think it looks like a rose. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff, and the fact that people are getting shot left and right, shenanigans are afoot. I think this guy got suckered. Plus, it doesn't sound like he's too smart, easily led type. So I would say yes.
I'm not a big expert on the Kennedy assassination, so I tend to go with whatever you say. So I'll agree with you.
I like that. Finally.
Tea or coffee? What's your favorite hot beverage? Asks Batman.
It's neither one of those.
You don't like hot beverages, do you?
I never drink hot beverages. I never drink. I drink room temperature stuff, and I usually like Jägermeister, for example. Or tequila. I like it served at room temperature. But I mean, otherwise, I don't. I would say if I was forced to drink something hot, I would say broth, maybe, or maybe hot chocolate or hot cocoa, but not too hot. I don't like hot. I don't. What about you? You're a tea and coffee guy.
I'm a 100% coffee guy. I thrive and survive on coffee alone. I've tried to get into tea several times. I know it's better for you. But it's just, I don't know. It's hard to go away.
Remember when we went to Schaefer's last week and Chad ordered unsweetened tea? Why don't you just go find you some rusty bucket and just pour some of that in a cup? I was stunned and no one ever orders that. But he's like,
I do like unsweet tea.
Oh man,
I'll drink
that.
But only iced tea. I don't like hot. Well, I just don't like hot tea.
I remember the old man tried to get me on the old. He would make that sun tea, that stick we put outside. Like,
yeah.
I can still taste it, and the taste ain't good, brother.
Yeah.
No thanks.
Well, yeah. I hear you on the sun tea. Okay. Lord Soup says, I have this foible. If a shoot 'em up has a lame looking ship, it spoils it for me.
Yes.
Do you mind a lame ship in shoot 'em ups? And do you have any particular small details that can put you off a game?
I do mind a lame ship. I do mind it. And that right there is one thing. I'll play a shoot 'em up that has a shmup. I'll play it if the ship's kind of lame looking. Some games have real lame looking ships, but I prefer a cool guy ship. I want some sleek, cool guy ship. I don't want some doofusy looking ship I want something that looks like something you'd want to get in, like I want something that like whatever the spaceship equivalent of like a Porsche is, something really jacked up, cool looking.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I think I'm less hung up on the main character of games than I am the environments, the backgrounds. I talk about this all the time on the Amigos, where it's like you'll have a game that has a really well animated main character. Like Agony's a perfect example. Where they spent so much time making the owl look super super awesome that it seemed like
looks great.
they expended all their skill points.
Well, the backgrounds on that look awesome too. What are you talking about? It all looks good.
No, the enemies in that game are horrid abominations.
Yeah, they're not that good. But I mean, the backgrounds are cool.
Yeah, the backgrounds are cool.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, small details like that. Like, I really just hate sameness in games. I hate when everything is the same. Just like on Switchblade, everything's gray. Just give me variety. I think, doing a show like us, like we have, lets you have the opportunity to reflect on what you like about video games, just on a whole, in a way that you wouldn't normally think about it, maybe. And as we do more and more of these shows, I come back to the same points where it's like the thing that I want is give me something that I like to do and make it constantly change and present itself in a new way. So
yeah, and I will say, getting back to the shmup thing, you know those cute 'em ups they've got where you're like a kitty cat or a
witch on a broom.
I don't like any of that.
I love those games.
I think they're double lame.
I've got a list in my notebook that's got all the cute 'em ups on it. Eric Nelson helped me with that. All right. Chris Folds. This is back to the well here. He asks, have you ever given up caffeine? If not, how long do you think you could last before collapsing?
I've given up caffeine tons of times. In fact, I gave up soda for like years and years. So I could go. I'm not sure how much caffeine does for me. It might do a lot. I don't know. But I mean, I don't think it does. Like, I'm not sitting around here idling like a car, all the time, like always good to go. I don't have any trouble sleeping I mean, I have trouble sleeping, but nothing to do with like that sort of trouble. I mean, just like normal errand trouble like my dad has. But I don't think caffeine is a big factor. I mean, I completely cut out pop for years of my life. And so I don't think it would be that. I mean, it would suck because I like to drink the stuff that it's in, but it's not like I drank stuff exclusively because it's got loads and loads of caffeine. I guess I'll go that way, Yeah. What about you?
I've given up caffeine before. I had a panic attack in 2012, and this had been years. I had mental issues in the early 2000s, and I'd pretty much kicked them. And then one morning, I just decided I was going to drink a whole pot of coffee. And that triggered a horrible panic attack. And after that, instead of doing a normal person thing where it's like, maybe you just shouldn't drink a pot of coffee anymore, I was like, well, I'm just going to not drink caffeine. And so for like 3 or 4 years, I didn't drink caffeine. But then one day I decided to start again. And I have cut back. I used to drink probably 8 cups of coffee in the morning. And now I drink probably 3 or 4. And I mean, these are like, 8-ounce cups of coffee, which I put in a huge thing. And then I just switch over to decaf because I love the taste of coffee really as much as the caffeine. Just strong black coffee. So I could do it, but I choose not to because it does give me a lift in the morning. It helps me wake up. It helps me be alert and get stuff done before the students come in the morning.
Yeah. I just get up and go. I've always been like that. So I don't really need, I mean, I'm sure it doesn't hurt, but I just go.
I also get up at 5:30 every morning.
Yeah.
So
I get up about 6:30. So yeah, it sucks. It sucks to be us.
Let's see. Moving on to the next question, we go to Barkbit. He says, are there any conspiracy theories, well known or not, that you would consider plausible?
Well, you mentioned one earlier. It's one of my favorites. It's just, the fella that jumped out of the airplane with the that robbed the plane, effectively DB
Mm-hmm.
Cooper. I think that's a legitimate possibility that he could have survived that. So that one comes to mind right away. My problem with most conspiracy, when I was younger, conspiracy theories were a lot more fun because there weren't. The internet makes me scared of these things now, and it's
Mm-hmm.
also scary to talk about them. I know people, for example. No, I don't want to touch any nerves, but I know people that don't believe that terrorists took out the trade centers. Okay, for example, it's one that pops into my mind. That's a common belief amongst conspiracy theories or theorists. All right, now, um, I don't agree, but you can't discuss something like that because because the internet. You can't discuss hardly anything. Look, people get mad about Amiga hardware, and which means nothing in the scope of things. You're going to try to discuss situations that had the people's deaths were involved or nations were altered. It's insane, So I don't even ponder that stuff like I used to. I could talk to it amongst my friends locally, but it's not something I want to get into on a big stage. So, I mean, when it comes to thinking of any that were plausible, I mean, like I said, with the exception of the D.B. Cooper one, and I will say the JFK one, I mean, those are pretty generic, but it's true. Those two, I think, are probably fairly plausible. But and I have my other ones that I would get into, but I'm not going to for fear of reprisal. So those are the two that pop into mind. What about you?
Well, conspiracy theories are interesting because on some level, most of them are somewhat plausible.
Yeah.
That's what makes them conspiracy theories. Like you can watch these videos, and I agree with you 100%. The internet has made. I mean, you look at. I have students when I used to sub. I subbed it for Buffalo High's band one year, and they were all into conspiracy theories like you wouldn't believe. Like they would just sit in the band room and pull out their phones and watch these conspiracy videos about like the Illuminati and all this stuff.
Right.
And the thing is, you watch these things and you realize, yeah, well, this is it plausible or is this just manipulation? Because you can be manipulated into thinking anything. I mean, that's the way the human mind works. If you have somebody that's good at making a case, they can make you believe anything about anything. And that's what makes a lot of this stuff so scary.
Yeah, and especially when you've got younger people that are not going to have the wisdom to see through some of the shenanigans.
Right.
I mean, I don't have any idea which conspiracies, like for example, you guys were watching at the time, but I've seen plenty of people that are good at presenting things in a way to get their point across, even if it's a stupid point or a wrong point. And you've got to have the wisdom and the experience to understand that what you're seeing is to manipulate you in a certain line of thinking. And often, a lot of these things, the truth of the matter is, we just don't have the information to even speculate anything. I mean, you can speculate, but anything is wild speculation. There's no concrete evidence for most things, and you have to live with it. That's just the way
Right.
it is.
The one bit of advice that I know that with all of these conspiracy theories, most of them can be disproven because the amount of people that would need to lie and keep the truth to themselves to keep these things afloat is totally unreasonable because people spill the beans. They love to spill the beans about anything, anytime, anywhere.
Yeah, so. Yeah, that's usually my go-to. It's very unlikely that there'd be a worldwide conspiracy.
HSI asks, how do the Amigos feel about having their faces smashed on Paul Harrington's drums? Remember that a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, I like that, man. I was surprised too.
I thought that was really cool.
My face has been smashed before, so at least it's in an artistic way. So I like that.
David Z asks, this is for me. Whatever happened to my A1000? At one point, the monitor was a problem, but I thought the problem was the power strip, but now we never see it running. David, that turns out the problem was not the power strip. The problem is the 1702. It powers on. The green light comes on, but the tube does not display a picture. So the next Hayes Valley Classic Computer Club meeting, which is going to happen at the end of June, we're going to open that bad boy up and see if we can get it working again.
It's either a grounding issue or a bad cap. It's my guess,
yeah. Aaron, this is a question for you from Dave. He says, what's up with your A1000? Ever get the GoTech fixed and stable? If so, what's next?
Yes, the GoTech is well, more or less, it does work. The keyboard is just the dirt worst. It's all mauled. It needs a good cleaning. And so at the next Taste Body Computer Club, I'm bringing the keyboard along to get a good cleaning. Ultimately, I'm going to follow the Chris Edwards method and probably put one of the Pi Pi storms in it if I ever get one. The waiting list. It's funny. Every other Amiga pundit on earth got their hands on one of these, and I can't get one to save my life. I guess I started too late, or I'm not a big enough deal in the Amiga community to get hold of one of these suckers. I mean, everyone's got these things, but once I get one, I'll probably do a little dance, put that sucker in, and then let the 1000 have a light workload, because I like the idea of not having to have a kickstarts. The extra memory will help. Of course, the 1000 doesn't have enough chip memory to do like WHD loads and stuff, but it'll still help out in a lot of areas. Plus, you still get that speed boost and stuff. So for an Amiga 1000, I think these things are quite nice.
Cool. This is a question for me from Dave. He said, did I see an A600 on the side during a couple of episodes? Yes, it's right over there. If so, what's going on with that? That A600 has had quite a life.
Yeah.
It was originally sent to us by Gary Hucker from Australia.
The Huck.
It spent a long time up in the frozen north with Jason Warrens as he worked on it.
Yeah.
And he actually built a brand new homemade power supply for it. Unfortunately, when you plug a memory expansion into it, the joystick, for some reason, pulls constantly to the left.
Yeah.
And you need that memory expansion to make the WHD load work. Otherwise, it just is too slow. So,
and then we put a PAL motherboard in that thing as well.
Yeah, it is it's a PAL A600. I mean, it came that way from Australia.
No, we put an NTSC one in there, didn't we? We had another one.
It's got a PAL motherboard in there.
But we've had another board in there.
We had multiple A6.
Yeah, we had a guy from Arizona, I think it was, that sent us one. Remember that? Long ago, and it worked. But the problem is the NTSC one was NTSC, and the PAL one was way better.
Useless.
So yeah.
HSI says, do the Amigos have any machines they'd be willing to part with to a viewer for fair money and shipping costs? Finding hardware in the wild for a decent price is like panning for gold in a septic tank.
Yeah. My dad pans for gold.
Yeah, the stuff is definitely not getting any cheaper. At this point, the only thing that I have left in my collection that was not given to me is my 1200 XL and my NES. Everything, every other system that I have was a gift and therefore not for sale. How about you, Aaron? You got a bunch of stuff you want to unload on HSI?
Well, if I was going to get rid of anything, I'm going to try to get this 500 working. When I get that working, that would be on the list, the short list.
Okay.
The CD32, I could probably part with it, but part of me wants to keep it because it's such a rarity. But it is an NTSC CD32, and so it's...
And you definitely wouldn't want what he considers to be fair. Fair money is code for cheap. And that CD32 you need to sell for...
Listen, the Amigos don't sell anything for fair money, if you know what I mean. No, really, we don't sell anything. I mean, when was the last time you sold anything? I mean, I haven't sold anything forever.
I haven't sold anything retro. I mean, the last thing I sold was Clue Land for the NES, and I definitely sold it for more than fair money.
And I would never I wouldn't even consider selling things that were given to us because...
No,
I like that. That's cool. And so that stuff. But I mean, really, I would just want to keep it. So there's that.
Yeah. And then he says, are there any recommendations for fair priced reproductions or FPGA units that you could recommend to a person who's never used an Amiga, Atari ST, Coco, etc.? Abso-freaking-lutely. The Mister. It is if I was starting from scratch and I didn't have anything, I wouldn't buy anything other than a Mister. If I was interested in the Amiga, the Atari ST, and the Coco, the three systems that you just mentioned, the Mister will do everything you want, and it will be reliable, and it's a small form factor. It is the perfect thing for what you want.
Now, that said, if you want to invest in classic hardware, which is cool, I can understand that. I would probably, of the three systems you mentioned, I would probably go for a Coco, and I'll tell you why. It's not because the Coco's better, but the Coco is cheaper than all those. and you would get more bang for your buck with a Coco 3 now because the Coco 3 is probably much rarer than the other systems too, and those things are starting to go like hotcakes. But you can still get them if you hurry, and then you can hold on to that. And if you ever need to make some bucks, I guarantee you could sell. Because again, there's things are Boat. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
they've went up exponentially. Now Amigas. One thing I see happening is with the Amiga and the Atari, especially the Amiga. These alternative things are coming out that may loosen up the low end of the Amiga market a little bit. And so you could probably you could score you a 500 pretty cheap these days. In fact, the Coco's not much cheaper than a 500 anymore.
But again, HSI is in the States, which means he'd be getting an NTSC Amiga, which would mean it would be useless.
Well, those days are coming to an end though with the Pi thing stuff. That's not.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
deal.
at that point, you're getting the Pi thing. Just get a Mister.
No, dude, if he wants original hardware.
But he's not. He's asking for reproductions or FPGA units, etc.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear. I missed part of that part of the question. Yeah, get the Mister. That's a correct answer. Yeah.
Jonah asks, "What's your favorite Monty Python movie?"
Man, Holy Grail. But I love Life of Brian, but I also like Meaning of Life an awful lot. I'm one of the people that loves that movie. And I love the music in it. I love it. So I'm going to say Holy Grail because I think it's the funniest. But I do like, I really like all their stuff. For the most part. What about you, Boat?
I mean, Holy Grail is great.
Yeah. It's so good.
It's got so many quotable lines in it.
Yeah.
And then I also like Life of Brian.
Yeah, also great.
I think it's not anywhere near as blasphemous as people thought it would be when it first came out.
Well, different era too.
Yeah. But all of this, there's a bunch of great scenes. I've only seen Meaning of Life once, and I probably need to watch it again. But to be honest, like, I'm not a big fan. Much like I'm not a fan of stand-up comedy, I'm also not a fan of sketch comedy. So I just don't really like funny things, I guess.
Well, I mean, but those are like neither one.
I mean, like the actual Monty Python show itself.
Oh, I love that show.
Yeah, I know lots of people love it, but to me, it's just like you see the gag and you see what's funny about it, and then the gag continues, and it's just like, what are we doing? And so, but anyway, as far as the movies, yeah, Holy Grail, fantastic.
I will say you really should go back and watch Meaning of Life. It's got a ton of great songs in it, but there are some really good. One of my favorite bits, and there's a bit in it where their kids are at a sex education class. Remember, you don't remember this, I'm guessing.
No,
it's John. I think it's John Cleese. I think, and the chick that played Magenta in the Rocky Horror, and it's his wife. And so in sex education class, they actually start having sex in the class, and then it's describing what's happening, and the kids are so bored that they're totally uninterested in what's happening before them. It's such a funny scene, man. There's a ton of good stuff in it. I recommend it, man. Good stuff.
Okay. Paul asks, what's your favorite comedy duo?
Comedy duo. Oh, boy. Do you have any? I mean, there's not like a zillion of them.
Again, this goes back to just not really liking like stand-up comedy. Because when I think about comedy duos, I think about like Abbott and Costello, Who's on First, that sort of thing. I mean, I could just sort of leave it all, to be honest with you.
I'm going to have to ponder this for a minute. Because really, comedy duos sort of went away, didn't they? I mean, It's not something you see that much.
I mean, maybe like you could answer like Jim Carrey and the other guy from Dumb and Dumber. They were sort of a comedy duo.
I like, and I'm going to put these guys on the list because they have an album. As far as I'm concerned, if you've got a comedy album, you're a comedy duo, all right? And that's going to be Bob and Doug McKenzie. I like their shtick, and they're funny. Dave Thomas and Rick Moranis.
Oh yeah, I would definitely call them a comedy.
So I'm going to put them in there because those guys always amuse me. Now, you could also say if you're going to get particularly non-nitpicky, Gene Wilder and Marty. That were a good team up in Young Frankenstein, but I mean that's hard to say that that's a comedy duo. But they were funny together. They had lots of funny scenes. But I'm gonna go with Bob and Doug just because they had an album, so I can get away with it.
I'm gonna say Ricky Gervais and Carl Pilkington. This is from when they used to do a radio show on Sky in the UK, and I downloaded a million of these episodes when I lived in Korea, and I used to listen to them when I was walking to school, and
Yeah.
I would literally like have to stop and go around the corner and just collapse because I'd be laughing so hard. Like I think Ricky Gervais is like one of the
He
funniest
is
people
funny.
ever, and Carl Pilkington is sort. I mean, he plays sort of the dumb guy.
Yeah.
And I mean, a great team, those guys, and
I
also
thought
the other guy was in there too. The guy that worked with him, and I can't think of his name, but he was also part of the show.
I changed my answer. All right.
Okay.
I thought of a comic duo. Rick Mayall and Abe Emerson. Those guys are hilarious. They've been in a bunch of different shows. I love them. Super duper funny guys, and they've worked together so many times that you could absolutely count them as a duo. Plus, they toured. So that's gonna be my list. My guys, they're good stuff. There you go.
Okay. Stephen Merchant. Thank you, Brock. He's the third guy on that show. Okay, let's see. Chris Folds asks, have you ever thought of doing video streams in a bikini sitting in a hot tub like Amuranth?
I've seen
So
that
have you heard
chick.
about this
Yeah.
new thing?
I've seen her channel many times.
Okay.
I
So what
was
do you think
flipping
about
through.
that?
I like it.
You approve of attractive women in bikinis sitting in hot tubs doing live streams?
A lot of people now. Listen, you can understand why that would anger people, okay? But she's out there trying to make a buck, okay? And there's something to be said for going out and trying to make a buck. She's using her natural God-given abilities to be hot, I guess, and to talk people into the room to make her some money, okay? Because that's what it is. Because Twitch, years ago they stomped down on sort of the porn side of Twitch. They've made it a little more conservative. But it's funny, the hot tub rule. It's funny. I read it was almost like you were skirting. You were within your rights to do it. The funny thing about her story is she got no warning. She got no nothing. She was just bam, unadvertised. Just like out of the blue. She had no paperwork, nothing. And they said even though she's technically not breaking any rules, they still did it. Well, guess what? You're at the mercy of Twitch, just like YouTube, right? We've been there. So I don't like what they did. I can understand why people don't like this chick. Don't watch her. All right? I can understand why people are jealous of her for making a bunch of money based on the fact that she's a hot chick in a bikini in a hot tub. Listen, that's the world. People want to pay money to a hot chick in a bikini hot tub. It's the way it is. I don't have a problem with this chick trying to make her a buck, as long as she stays within the same rules that the rest of us are. But when they start moving the goalposts, and they can, because we have no choice in the matter, then I think that's crummy. And if you're going to move the goalposts, you need to give everyone, just like when they did with when they changed the rules about using music and stuff. If you're going to do that, you need to tell us ahead of time so we can make modifications to what we're doing to not violate the rules. And it's the same thing with the hot tub. Both if me and you want to get in a hot tub, hold hands, get in a hot tub in bikinis, and type stuff on here, as long as it's in the rules, by God, we should be allowed to do it. And so there's my answer.
All right. Well said. I agree. And finally, our last question of the evening. NetSurge, he asked the take on a horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses. Since that question has already been answered, he's typed in an alternative question. What is the closest thing to real magic? Anything in the world, technology, someone, skill, etc.
I'm a big Babylon 5 guy, as you know. There were these guys on the Babylon 5 called technomages, and they used technology to effectively simulate magic, right? And at the time, I thought, how clever this is. But that's sort of, in fact, in some ways, that's exactly what a lot of big-time magicians do, right? They use technology to simulate magic. Now, everything technologically now is like magic to an Aaron from, say, 15 years ago. Cell phones, and the internet, and 3D stuff, that PDF thing you showed earlier, all that stuff. I'd be like, I can't fathom it. So you could take your pick of any of those things. I would never have envisioned. I remember the first time I went and saw one of those 3D movies, the new ones, because I'd seen the old ones with the 3D glasses from back in like the 70s, and they sucked. You know what I'm saying? And so we went and saw this movie in the theater, and I couldn't believe it was in 3 freaking D, man. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and now no one gives a crap about these movies. Like, that fad passed us by. But I mean, so that was sort of magical too. You know, I saw Captain EO, which
Captain
wasn't
EO rules, man. I
it wasn't
love
that
Captain
good.
EO.
But there's a
It
bit
was
in Captain
great.
EO. There's a bit in Captain EO where like this thing flies off the stage and flies around the
It comes right
crowd.
at you.
And I thought to myself, this is back. I was just like, you know, I was in high school. I was like, holy, there it was. You know, how'd they do that? You know,
Mm-hmm.
so everything's magical because we were, you know, now it's not magical because we've slowly grown into it. It's amazing to me that I can store 80 gabillion tons of data on a little thing that small. Like, how the heck's that work? I don't know. You know, but I was amazed. I thought cassette tapes were magical too at the time because they were to me because I'd never seen them before. So I don't know if that answered the question or not.
I think for me, and this is a, you know, you can call this a cheesy answer or whatever, but I really think that making music together in a group, like in a band, when you're playing, it's magical. And I get to sort of be like the wizard in charge. Like when I stand on the podium and I go 1, 2, ready, and then they start, and you feel something when that music starts, and you feel like you're locked together at that point. And the thing that you're telling yourself is, please don't let this fall apart. Please don't let this fall apart. And that feeling, that interconnectedness is something that I've only experienced playing music in a group like that. And I honestly do. I think it's magic.
You know, you were right. That is a cheesy answer, but I understand where you're coming from. In fact, I'm even going to endorse that answer because I was never a conductor. But when you're in a band and everything's clicking, you feel something. Like you feel a confidence and an energy that you're not familiar with unless you've been there. And you don't get it every time you perform. You may get it once in your life.
Right.
I remember just a few times that I felt like, my God, we're the best thing walking the earth. Like, this is it. And everything's coming together. You know, and you only get that sort of feeling after all the hard work and all the struggle. But it comes together. It's great. It's a great feeling. Now, is it magical? I don't know, maybe. But I mean, I could definitely, as a conductor, I could absolutely see where, you know, manipulate this entire field of players with your hands would be a magical experience.
Yeah.
Very good, Boat.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this month's Ask the Amigos. As always, we appreciate all of the questions from our Discord community. And we encourage all of you out there to post your questions in the Ask the Amigos channel. As always, if you'd like to participate and ask your question, you can either support us through Patreon at patreon.com/Amigos Podcast, or you can subscribe to us on Twitch at twitch.tv/Amigos Retro Gaming, and that gives you access to our Discord server as well. We will see you guys next time for another episode of Ask the Amigos. Until then,
Adios.
adios.